episode. All right, welcome back to the Zona Show. My name's Austin. This is Blake Master. He's running for Senate in 2022. So we're going to talk about some various issues here. I want to talk to you a little bit about the border. That's huge for me because I live down there in Florida, and a lot of BLM out there. There's a lot of traffic areas out there. My uncle, he actually works for the Montgomery Sheriff's Office. He dealt with a lot of that. So what is your specific stance on this border crisis and convenience on it? Because Maricopa right now, it's not that safe to be out there.
It's really not. The first thing to remember about the border crisis is it's not an earthquake. It's not a natural disaster. This was caused.
Yep.
This was caused by Joe Biden.
Yes.
Literally, by the policies. I'm not going to pretend it was perfect under President Trump, but it was like pretty damn stable.
Yep.
It was pretty good in September of 2020. Joe Biden takes office January 2021, reverses those policies, and now you've got 225,000 illegal aliens crossing, right? Big traffic, fentanyl's coming through. So this is like a crisis that is caused by this administration. And so the first thing to do is to just flip the switch back and re-implement President Trump's policies.
Yeah, and there's in the news where Joe Biden is going to have that policy of Trump's to stay in Mexico, the big stay in Mexico policy. I really hope that he can implement that policy, Biden, right now, and have all these immigrants go back to Mexico so they can come to the border.
Well, they're dragging their feet, right? The court said that they had to re-implement it in Mexico. They unconstitutionally got rid of it. But they don't want to.
They don't want to.
They don't want to. They don't want it to.
Yep.
And that's been my huge realization here, and I feel this even more strongly now that I've been campaigning for some months. The left doesn't want a border.
They don't.
Because they know that a border is a feature of a real country. If a real country has a real border, the left doesn't care about it.
Yeah.
They actually want people to come in. I think someday they want to turn them into voters.
Of course, and that's my next point here. We have all these new Americans that come in, right? The Democrats, unfortunately, they're fantastic at publicity. Yeah. That's their big old stunt in America. And to get these new voters here that come across the border, they know nothing about America. So all these guys are escaping their countries because they're bad government and bad citizens in this country.
Sure.
So the Democrats, to get to them, that's definitely be a recipe for a bad disaster right there. So if we stop it at the border and have them come through legally with our system, have them learn about America, and do that, it'd be fantastic for everybody. So I definitely do appreciate your stance with the border like that. That's fantastic. It's a really big issue for me living in Maricopa.
And it's like the solution's unfortunately, it's simple.
Yeah.
It's simple. It's all you have to do is re-implement Trump's policies, finish the wall, double or triple the size of Border Patrol.
Yes.
And then actually fund them. Give those guys the technology and the resources they need to stop it.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, the fentanyl will go down 90%. All of a sudden, illegal, trafficking, human trafficking goes down 90%. That last 10% may be hard to fix, but it's not hard to make the situation way better.
Yeah. It is so fantastic now that we have a senator, unlike Mark Kelly, that actually cares about us. You are there, you're fighting.
It's true, Mark Kelly's pretty MIA.
Yeah,
where is he?
Right.
He doesn't care.
He's not there.
He doesn't care.
And I like a senator that goes out to our sheriffs and backs our sheriffs. I see you out there doing interviews with Sheriff Lane out there and stuff like that. That's so fantastic. You're out there backing our sheriffs. And those guys need more backing than anything right now.
They do. It's so unfair, too, because if the federal government doesn't do its job, right? And I do think the wall and immigration generally, those are federal prerogatives.
Yes.
But if the federal government doesn't do its job, it just throws an unfair burden on all these counties, right? So like Sheriff Daniels in Cochise County, it's tough. Like all of a sudden he's supposed to be the guy that's arresting and prosecuting all these traffickers. Well, it's like the county jail's not big enough. So they fill up the county jail, but then they have to petition for the state and the feds to give them the money, right? They get reimbursed like 15 cents on the dollar. It just hits these small county sheriffs so hard. It hits all the people that live by the border. It hits you guys hard. It's just so unfair.
And it's ridiculous too because it shouldn't be just Arizona's responsibility to secure the border. It should be the federal government's job.
But they're not doing it. It's like Biden's not doing it. And so that's why you do need to see state officials. The governor, I think, needs to step up and do more. Attorney General Berdovich, he's done almost nothing.
Yes.
Like, he doesn't seem to care. He'd rather go on Fox News and complain about it.
Yeah, and you're totally right. And Arizona, we should be focusing more on education, more developing our young generation instead of doing the government's job and protecting the country, not just Arizona, the country. The government should be helping us.
Yep.
Unfortunately, they're not. And it's very sad.
That needs to change.
It needs to change very bad. And the next topic I want to talk about is education. All right, my mom, I grew up in a family full of educators. My mom was an educator for 38 years. I grew up in an education system that did not do it very well. I'm dyslexic. It's very hard for people that have dyslexia like me. We're very educated in everything else, right? So bookwork is not our thing, right? Unfortunately, they're not there at all. This education system in Arizona has been pretty poor for the last, I guess, decade. Ever since I've been in our schools, it's been pretty bad. So what is your stance on getting our schools back into order so we can be in the top 10 of education in the United States? Because right now I think we're sitting at 48, so it's pretty embarrassing.
Well, but we're sitting at 48 even though we spend more and more money every year on per pupil education, on education. And this is what the left wants. It's like when you have a failing system, the left wants to say, oh, well, look at the bad results. Like, just fund us more, right? And then you get worse results. And somehow the more funding actually makes it worse at this point. I think the first thing to do is to break the stranglehold that the teachers' unions have.
Yes, that's
on
huge.
These schools, right? And 4 or 5 years ago, you couldn't really attack teachers' unions.
Yeah.
Even though I think maybe they've been bad for a long time. You couldn't attack them because it was seen as being anti-student.
Yes.
But I think the teachers' unions during COVID have sort of exposed themselves. They've revealed their hand. They've gone so far so fast that it's just obvious they're looking out for their own interests, which are not the students' interests. Not most of the time anyway. And so I think by breaking the hold of the teachers' unions, I think that's the first step. We ought to be able to educate a kid for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a year.
Yeah.
Even that's a lot of money. But right now we're
yeah.
spending 10, 12, 13,000 per student, getting worse results. You're graduating kids that can't even read or do math.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous because I see that a lot. And in my class, I was the only one that graduated in my dyslexia. The only one in my class that graduated with dyslexia. Everyone else that had dyslexia with me, they're either on drugs right now, they dropped out of school. It's embarrassing. They don't do anything for us.
And one problem in education is just this perennial lowering of the bar.
Yes.
So if you have a bad graduation rate in your high school, right, and you're an administrator, left-wing administrator, you'll say like, oh, look how low our graduation rate is. We need more resources, right? Or you want to get the graduation rate up, so you just drop the standards. And all of a sudden you're graduating this year people who shouldn't graduate, who wouldn't have graduated with the prior standards. Well, you just lower the standards, and okay, yeah, your graduation rate goes up. But that's actually bad. It's bad for the most talented kids. It's bad for kids who are not talented, right? It's bad for everybody. You've got to set the bar high. Kids want to go up and hit that bar. They'll do a lot more if you nurture them.
That's so correct.
Then they're capable.
And another thing in education too, my family really believes this is trade schools. I love trade schools.
Yeah, totally.
Because there's kids that they can't focus in school. They don't do well in school.
Well, not everybody's cut out to go to college and be a bookworm and be a professor. It's like, what about the people who want to be plumbers, electricians, hang drywall? Or the people who are geniuses, but they just don't think in terms of what Plato said, or they're just more they're mechanically inclined. Or Wozniak, right? Soldering the early apple.
It's fantastic.
You got to get more of that. I went to Eastern Arizona College, not myself, but just last week to tour, last month to tour.
Yeah.
And it's like the CNC mills and the welding shop, right? There was a whole auto program. And I'm not saying that's right for everybody, but I'm not saying that going to Vassar College or Harvard is right for everybody.
Yeah.
There should be 1,000 different paths to success for young people. I think we got to be focused more on training people with actual skills so they can even figure out what it's like.
Yeah.
I never got into how to build a house or plumbing. until I owned one. Right? It was a blind spot in my education.
Yeah.
I think it would have been really good for 16-year-old Blake to learn how to hang drywall.
I think it's so excellent you bring up that point. I mean, in my high school, when I went to high school, they actually took out the automotive class. They took out the cooking classes.
Yeah.
Those are fundamental things that every person in school should know.
That's right. It's like bring back shop class.
Yes.
Bring back home ec.
Yes.
And instead, it's just like social justice.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anybody any good.
It is so horribly, it's not doing America right. And we've seen a few weeks, we're already seeing it now, our education rates are plummeting. It's horrible. Yeah. So I'm glad that you're taking a stance on it here and fighting for this. That's so amazing. Another thing too, I want to talk about in Arizona's big, the ATF with the pistol grips, the pistol grips, right? Yes. Yeah. So I have one myself, right? And now I'm afraid to bring it out, right? Because I'm like, they're classifying it when I go pistol grip on it a criminal.
They're trying to. They haven't done it yet.
They haven't done it yet.
They're trying to.
But that's scary.
Overnight, it would create 3 or 4 million felons. I think 3 or 4 million pistol braces have been made. And my solution here, I don't think the ATF should retroactively go and classify the pistol braces as short-barreled rifle, right? You shouldn't do that. But the real solution is not to pretend that these things are pistols.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, functions just like a short-barreled rifle. the real fix there is to take short-barrel rifles out of the MFA.
Yeah.
Short-barrel rifles should be legal.
Yeah,
To say that this length rifle should be legal and this pistol should be legal, but this thing in the middle should be illegal somehow, it doesn't make any sense.
It makes sense whatsoever. And also, you have to pay a $200 tax stamp when I have that, correct?
Yep.
And it's ridiculous. They're saying it's because of there's some sort of school shooting that happened, and they took that away. I'm not real sure. Don't quote me on that.
I mean, first of all, school shootings are pretty rare.
Exactly.
Every one is a tragedy and it's one too many, but they often happen.
Yes.
Virginia Tech was a Glock. Columbine, they used all sorts of random weapons. There's a shotgun involved. So, guns are powerful. Right?
Yes.
Guns are weapons. Guns are tools. They will kill people.
Yes.
If you point a gun at a human and shoot them,
it will kill them.
It's about like who's doing that. What is going wrong with people who are just snapping and doing that? Again, it doesn't happen that much, but when it does happen, it's not the fault of 5 million people who legally own short barrel rifle like pistols.
It is.
So the ATF is just, I think the NFA is basically unconstitutional.
It is.
And certainly trying to retroactively change the rules to make 4 million people felons. That's what Biden wants to do. That's what gun control is all about. It's all about making sure that you, even though you're trying to obey the law, you're a felon.
Yeah.
You're a bad guy. How many people did you shoot and kill last year?
0.
That's right.
None.
But you're the bad guy.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the left doesn't want to go after criminals at all.
Yeah. It's so crazy because every time I go out there shooting, right, I'm so afraid to have my short barrel rifle. I keep it at home now. I don't even want to touch it because
You're admitting to the world that you have it.
Yeah.
So pretty soon.
It's pretty soon.
Biden's DOJ will come bust
but unfortunately, I paid for the $200 tax stamp. So
But you did.
I did.
So it's a short barrel rifle.
It's a short barrel rifle,
Legal,
but
okay.
still, you never know. The ATF can come back tomorrow and saying something different. They've been doing that for the last
That's true.
couple of months.
That's true. I think you're good because it's a registered NFA weapon. But
You think, but you know,
It's bad.
once the Democrats are in office, A&E will go. I mean, that's so amazing that a great stance on border, a great stance on education, and a great stance on guns. Next thing I want to talk about too. My father, he owned his own construction company. It was a very small business owner, right? In 2008 and 2000, real crash happened, right? It took our company and wiped us out. What can you do, or Arizona do, to protect these small businesses? Something like that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Because when the economy goes, these small businesses just go right down the drain.
Right. I mean, I think reforming how small businesses have access to capital through SBA loans and stuff like that, right? Look, I don't agree with the government shutdowns for COVID. I don't think we ever should have shut down.
Exactly.
But given that we did, the PPP program was probably the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I think a lot of large corporations that shouldn't have taken advantage of that did.
Yeah.
One of my competitors in this Arizona Senate race, his corporation, very profitable, very big. He tells everybody how awesome it is. They took PPP money and they got caught and refunded it. But that's not really who it's for. It's not for giant nonprofits or giant corporations. It's for small businesses.
Yeah.
And I do think it helped a lot of genuinely small businesses.
It did.
They didn't have a choice. They were locked out, right?
firsthand.
So when the government creates a crisis, some sort of government lifeline should happen. Do I think we should be bailing out small businesses absent a crisis? No. But I think the government should create the conditions where small business succeeds. Of course, in 07, 08, that crash was largely caused by bad government housing policy, right? Easy credit, and then lowering the standards for mortgages. This idea that everybody, should just get a cheap mortgage. It created this giant bubble that popped, and it left a lot of people, like your dad, in a tough spot. So I think when the government creates these problems, it has some role in actually helping people. Sometimes that may look like getting cash. So I hesitate to criticize the PPP program.
Yeah,
I just think we shouldn't shut down, and you shouldn't create a subprime crisis. Right? I want to create an environment where everybody can basically have a fair shot at creating that great small business.
That's what America's about.
That's what it's about.
Being a shop.
Not every business is going to succeed.
Exactly.
A whole lot will if government sets the right conditions and then gets out of the way.
And the thing too, I really believe in myself. I believe in grants. Grants starts big corporations. I mean, my parents, we owned a non-profit organization. Right? So grants are huge. I know it's different from different companies. But what would you do as Arizona to provide more grants for Arizona so this is growing? I mean, a lot of companies I know.
I take a survey of what programs are available. Like, what are we currently doing to help small business, right? I'd be a U.S. Senator at the federal level, so I'd check what federal grants sort of exist. I mean, they go to block grants to the states, or that the government works directly. How are those programs working? Are we giving away too little money, too much money? Who's getting it? Usually the recipients of these things aren't always the people who deserve them. Right? Sometimes the people who deserve them, God bless them, they're the ones working hard in that small business. They don't know how to write a government grant. And the people, even the companies, the industries that specialize in writing the grants often get the money, and it becomes a very corrupt system.
Yeah.
So I'd like to take a close look at all that and just make a fresh assessment.
I think it's very awesome. I want to appreciate you coming to my show, man. Well, the young generation is definitely for you. I have a lot of people at my school that definitely loves you and they want you to be there. And I'm so excited to have you on my show. And God bless, dude. And hopefully, I know we're going to win in 2022.
We're going to win big.
We're going to win in 2022. We're going to get Mark Kelly out of there, bro.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Take care.
Yep.
Yeah, but I'm high aware that most people I shoot stuff right now.